Hi, this is Brian from Provision Studios, and I'm going to make a video today in Pro Tools using Wave plugins to demonstrate a mastering session. I did a video a little while ago mastering inside of Pro Tools with stock plugins as well as using Isotope Ozone. Someone asked me to do a video using Wave plugins to sort of demonstrate the same process. Now, I have Waves Gold, the Gold bundle, so I don't have all their plugins, but the ones I do have is what I'm going to use to demonstrate today. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up Pro Tools, and I'm going to open up a new session, and I'm going to import some audio and start showing you what I would do for mastering. Okay, the first thing you're going to do obviously is you're going to open a new session. Step one is to import the audio that you bounce down, your 2-track or your stereo mix. I'm going to use a mix of a band that I recorded and master their song here. Okay, so here is the 2-track or the stereo mix of the song that I will be mastering.
Why you so ashamed? I'm not the one who blamed this song.
Okay. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a stereo aux track as well as a stereo master fader. Okay, so I have my 2-track, my submix, and then my master. So I'll name that submix, and we got master. Okay, the submix for the I/O, the input and the output. The input, I'm going to use my submix, and it will be routed into the master bus. The audio track that I will be mastering, I want it to go into the submix. So its output is submix that'll feed into the submix bus and then go into the master bus. Okay, so now what I want to do is, because I'm mastering and I'm going to be using compression and limiting, which are forms of level manipulation, I am going to find a section of the song that is pretty loud, and I'm just going to sort of loop that. That's the chorus. So I'm, for the purposes of what we're doing today, I'm going to just loop that whenever I need to. Reference audio. First thing I want to do is I've got a stereo mix that the client approved, and now I have to master it. There's a couple different things, a couple different approaches that you can take, and none of them are really wrong. It's basically what you're trying to accomplish. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a EQ plugin on my 2-track channel. Let's say we start with a Q8. Okay, I got a Q8 here, which is an 8-band paragraphic equalizer from Waves. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is add a little high-end lift. I'm going to make this a high, I'm sorry, not a high pass, a high shelf. I'm going to boost it around 1.5 dB. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to notch out a little bit of mid-frequency mud. Not that there's any, but just saying. We'll make sure it's a wide Q. So the lower the number, the wider the spread. The higher the number, the more narrow the bandwidth is. So you can see if I go at like a 94, obviously I would never, I would do that if I wanted to notch out a problem frequency. But here you can see how narrow this notch is. The lower the number, the wider the band. Anyway, okay. I'm not going to show that's not the purpose of today's video, is to show you how to use EQ, but I just wanted to show the difference of that right there. We'll take this back up to where I want it. Okay. Okay, so we got a little brightness that we're adding there. All right. Step 2. We've got an EQ on our 2 mix, our stereo mix, that sort of is, now that we're listening to our mix without all the plugins and all the tracks, we can sort of just sit there and just listen to the song. Maybe we've taken a week or 2 away from the mix, and we're hearing things now that our ears may not have heard, when we were first preparing the mix for the client. So anyway, so that's why you're going to put a little EQ there. It's natural to sort of, especially if you got multiple tracks, you want to sort of tie them in. So you would do maybe a different EQ on each track. Next thing I would do is I would go with a compressor. One option is the C1, which is perfectly fine. You can use a C1 compressor. For this purpose, I'm going to use the C4. The C4 is more like the dynamics processor inside of Isotope Ozone, which is a multiband compressor. The reason I like using multiband compressors is they act like multiple EQs. You've got each frequency range that you can adjust based upon the type of song you got. So from here, from 16 to 92, this whole area right here is going to control that frequency range. From 92 to 4000, this midsection is going to control this entire frequency range, and so on and so forth. You've got your gain, your range, your attack, and your release. So these are all pretty much just like the 4 main features you would find in any compressor, but you've got 4 of them. So it's like having 4 compressors in one, and you can dial into a certain frequency range. That's why I like using a multi-band compressor. You get the advantage of having the compression, but you get to dial it in on the section you want. So if you want more compression on your low end and less on your high end, so you want to really make that, maybe your low end pump a little more, you can dial in a different kind of compression on your low end than you do have on your high end. All right. That being said, you can also look at presets. Now, presets are a good way to start, especially if you're not really sure how something works. What I like to do is if I ever get a new plugin, I like to go through the presets and see what they do. How does one preset, when I click on it, what settings does it change? How do those settings react when they're changed over a different style of music? So I'm not saying don't use presets. What I'm saying is learn from a preset. Learn not to rely on them, but use them as a way to jumpstart your mix. That being said, I'm going to play a little bit of this back and see what we got here.
Run, little run away. Gonna let this story end, but you're broken promise.
next thing you would like to do is add another EQ after this compressor. One reason might be that after you have instantiated, let's say, some compression onto a track, now your low end may be a little bit too boomy. You still want to have that low end punch. You just don't want to have that boom. You can control that by putting an EQ after the compressor, or anything that the compressor adds that you don't want. You can put an EQ after it to sort of minimize the effect of that compressor. So in this case, I will put a high pass and listen to what we got there. Now the final thing I'm going to put on my mix bus or my submix is going to be a plugin that is a sort of a hybrid plugin from the Waves Gold bundle. It's called Vitamin. I'm going to show you a cool way to use it how I like to use it. Again, it comes with the Gold bundle, and I'm sure it comes with any bundle above it. Basically what it is, it's a multi-band compressor and more. You can see right here it's got A, B, C, D, and E. So it's got 4 bands: low, low, mid, high, mid, and high. It's got a level for each one. It has a pretty cool width dial. So if you want your low frequencies to be narrow or more in the center, you can reduce that. If you want your high frequencies, your high end, to be a little wider, you can increase their width, which is really cool. The way I do it is I solo a frequency, and then I slowly introduce each different range back into the mix until I hear what I want. So this is going to sound weird. It's going to sound very muddy at first, but then eventually you're going to hear what I'm doing. Here we go. Again, you can remove certain frequencies to hear how other bands are reacting. You just want to hear your high end. what I'm doing here is I'm increasing my low end when my low end starts. My crossover, that's called. Okay. All right, that being done, now I'm ready to move on to my final. I'm going to put a metering plug-in on there. I like to use the BrainWorks BX meter. I know this is not a Waves plug-in, but there are plenty metering plugins out there that you can use. I'm not going to say that you need to use a Waves. In fact, Avid comes with its own that you can use as well. You can go Avid Master Meter. You could use this just to meter what you're doing with. It's a matter of preference. I always like to use the BrainWorks BX meter. Okay, so basically, what the purpose of this right now. If you want to see what kind of gain we've got, where our peak is, and what kind of dynamic range we've got going on. So we're at -19, -18 RMS. Our peaks are at 4.6, 4.4. We got a dynamic range of around 8 to 7.5. Pretty good. We are now going to put in the Waves L1, and I'm also going to put in the L1 Ultra Maximizer. I'm only going to use one right now, but I'm putting them both in there because I'm going to show you two different approaches to this. But I'm going to start with the L1. Okay, threshold is the level at which the limiting begins. Output ceiling is where your peaks will stop at. So -0.3 means that this peak right here, once I hit play, this is going to go up to -0.3 on both sides because my limiter is going to control where my level stops at. You want to use minimum attenuation. We don't want to over squash it. And I'm going to show you what happens. The link button pulls both the threshold and the output ceiling down at the same rate. So we can hear how the limiter is affecting the music without hearing an increase in volume, which is very handy. I'm going to show you how that works right now. So you're going to put your mouse on the link button and you're going to pull down. Okay, so it's point, click, and drag. Okay, here we go. So we're not really getting any coloration. We're getting attenuation without coloration. That means we're not really pushing too hard. I'm actually going to raise it a little bit. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start raising the output ceiling. And that is going to increase the level of the mix dramatically. And you're going to start hearing the song get very loud because at this point we are now allowing the limiter to breathe. We're not sort of crushing the mix anymore and keeping it at -8. We're allowing it to open up. We're at -0.3, our ceiling. Our threshold set at -8. So our RMS was hidden at -10. So we've added about 10 dB of level, and our dynamic range was still hitting at 8. So that lets you know that despite the fact that we have made the mix louder, our dynamic range, in other words, our lowest level to our highest level, although we've made it louder, we have kept the dynamic range still together. So even though we've increased the level, it still has its ups and its downs. It still has its high loud parts and it has its low parts. The song's still going to breathe. It's still going to have its dynamic range. And that is key because that is what allows a song to be listened to over and over again without causing ear fatigue. If you hear a song that's slammed, it's constantly loud, it's just da 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 da, just repeatedly, your ears don't get a break, and eventually what happens is your ears just get tired, and you may not even realize it, but you're like, hey, I don't even want to listen to music anymore. It's pretty much your brain's telling you to turn it off. Okay, our ears have had enough. Okay, keeping your dynamic range when you master is really a key to keeping a song sort of. I want to use the word relevant, because if you put two mixes together and you hear one is over compressed or it's got heavy limitation and the dynamic range is maybe at 3 or 4, I do believe that a song that has a dynamic range of 8 to 10 dB is someone's going to want to listen to that more than the louder one, just because the simple fact that it's going to be less fatiguing to their ear. Okay, so that's pretty important there, is we were able to keep the dynamic range while increasing the levels. I'm going to show you the mix now with plugins and without plugins. I'm going to slowly turn on each plugin in sequence. And there you go. That's a basic mastering inside of Pro Tools with Waves plugins. I'm going to be honest with you. I am literally listening to this on these earbuds, so I would not say that this is really good mastering. It's hard for me to even tell if any of this stuff really is having an adverse effect, because again, I'm not really getting good bass response here. But I'm just trying to show you the concepts and some techniques that you might want to employ. Okay, when you're done with this, when you're satisfied with what you have, the next step is to bounce down your mix. You go File, Bounce to Disk, Wave, Interleave, 24-bit, Mastering Demo's good. I'm going to bounce this to my desktop. Here we go. We just bounced that little 22-second section. Okay, now I had it at 44.1 wave file at 24-bit because I'm not going to use that file to burn to disk. I'm going to go to use another third-party program to actually make my burn my CD with, because Pro Tools at this time does not allow you to do that. So I save that for later. I still want to have a good high-quality file, high-res file, before I go to 44.1 16-bit, which is what the resolution is for a CD. If you wanted to make an MP3, then directly from here, you want to go to MP3, you go File, Bounce to Disk. Under File Type, select MP3. You'll see it automatically goes to bit depth of 16 and 44.1K, mastering demo _1. You're going to come up here with your MP3 encoder settings. You've got fast encoding speed is fastest, which gives you a lower quality but a faster processing, or I always choose slowest, which gives you a higher quality encode. Okay, your bit rate 320 is the highest, and 128 probably would be the lowest you'd want to go to still maintain a high quality MP3 file. And then here you would put in all your tag, your your ID3 tag information, and you would click OK. All right, so that's how you would do an MP3. All right, now I want to show you another concept real quick, which is I'm going to turn off the L1 and I'm going to turn on the L1 Ultra Maximizer. I'm just going to match these settings real quick. -8, -0.3. Okay. Now I'm going to disarm the L1, bypass it, because I'm going to use the Ultra Maximizer, and I'm going to show you why. Now I'm going to show you the process of printing your mix or printing your master. It's called a stereo master print, a stereo print, a master print. There's several different names you can have for it. But I'm going to show you how to set that up right now. First thing you're going to need to do is create 2 new tracks. One is a stereo aux input. The second one is going to be a stereo audio track. All right. Rename the aux one print bus, and rename your audio track print track. Okay. The input on your print bus is going to be 1718 or whatever you choose. I'm choosing 1718. I'm going to route my submix, instead of it going into master bus, it is now going to go to bus 1718. Okay. The output of my print bus is going to go to my print track. So I want that to be bus 1920 or whatever bus you select, and I'm going to change this to that bus 1920. So the stereo mix is going to the submix. Submix is going to bus 1718. Bus 1718 is going to, which is the print bus. Bus 1718 is going to bus 1920, which is my print track, which then goes back into my master bus. I'm going to take the Ultra Maximizer, and I'm going to move it to my print bus. Okay. Now the maximizer that I moved from my master fader is now on my print bus and is going to have the settings that the last mix was having. If you go to input only monitoring, you'll be able to move the mix. So you want to arm the print track for recording and go to track input only monitoring, and that will allow, if you don't have input only monitoring selected, when you hit play, you're not going to hear anything. The reason being is that it is not allowing you to monitor the track that you are printing to. So you want to go track input only monitoring and make sure that the print track is armed to record. Play. Okay, that being said, real quick, before we print, I'm going to show you, you've got the reason why the Ultra Maximizer is different than the L1 is because of this section right here, the dithering. The dithering portion of this plugin allows you to put dither onto a track, which introduces noise into a mix that is then, when you lower the resolution of the mix, the noise is removed and keeps your higher frequencies intact so that you don't have a brittle top end or even a damaged low end either. So you would quantize down to 16 bits if you are in fact going to CD. Your dither type you can select between dither 1 and dither 2. Your shaping can be normal, ultra, moderate, normal, or ultra. And then the domain is digital or analog. And that just, the digital or analog domain gives you the sort of the environment that the dithering is created in. There's a matter of preference. So for this case, I'm not going to introduce any dithering or I'm not going to quantize the track because again I'm using a third party program to put my dithering on when I bounce the disc, but this is where you would do that at, and you want this to be your last step when you bounce. Okay, so all right, we're all set up. We've got our track armed. I'm now going to hit the record button and hit the play button to record the mastered mix onto my print track. Okay, there we go. So this is what you would call a master print, or a print master, or just your stereo master. It can, there's several names for it. Now, okay, you've got the track mastered, you've got it printed. What's the next step? When you use the print track method, the next step would be to open up your clips list right here with this arrow that points to the left. Okay, you right click on the track, you go to export clip as files, and this goes export selected. So this is where we are going to get our print track out of Pro Tools so that we can then do other things with it. File type, you can save it as a WAV, AIFF, an MP3, or a QuickTime. MP3 again is a good choice if you're going to go to a digital file that you want to upload. WAV is a good choice if you're going to go to CD. Format is interleaved. You can also select multiple mono if that is what you want. Bit depth, 16, 24, or 32. 24 is fine if you are going to use a third-party program to burn your disk. Sample rate, obviously you have different sample rates you can select. 44.1K is the industry standard for audio. Okay, you're going to choose your directory. Again, I will choose the desktop. At this point, you can click export, and it just took my print track and it bounced it down onto my desktop. So now I have the bounce to disk version using the L1, and now I have the print track exported WAV file that was created with the L1 Ultra Maximizer. And that pretty much sums it up. I mean, there's not much more that you would do inside of Pro Tools when you master. If there was a feature where you could, like I said, burn it to disk, I would show you that. The program I use for that is PreSonus Studio One. As a matter of fact, PreSonus Studio One is the program I master in. I don't master in Pro Tools. I track and mix, and those are the three phases. You record, mix, and master. So if you have any questions, just email me, brianbuckalew@yahoo.com. That's BrianBuckalew @yahoo.com. You can also put a comment here in the below the description on this video, or you can visit my website, provisionstudios.com. Look at some of my content there. Message me there as well. PROVIZIONSTUDIOS.com. Thank you very much and have a great day.